GEPRC is very famous by their cinewhoops, and one that is getting a lot of popularity these days is the Cinelog20. I want to build one from scratch, so you have a video that you can use to reference if you're repairing your Cinelog20 or if you want to build one yourself. I have an O3 with me. I have the original motors SpeedX X2 1303.5 5500 kV, and of course I have my Express LRS receiver. Let's see how you do this drone and see what comes out of it. This frame has a few gotchas that I found out during the building process, so if you're using this video to build your own, please watch the whole video first so you don't get the same mistakes that I did. This is the first time that I'm seeing one of these drones to build it, but I'm pretty sure that it's similar to the Cinelog20 if you look at the plate, where you have inserts for the plastic TPU here, and the FC, the flight controller, is going to be attached to this part, and the VTX is going to be attached to this part, and then you just sandwich everything together. So let's start with installing the flight controller, the all-in-one in here, and let's move forward. First thing to notice is the Cinelog20 doesn't have a lot of space inside, and that's the reason why GEPRC is using the capacitor connected to the battery like this, and then wrap it. So you have to cut the tube wraps here and solder the capacitor in there, put the wrap in again, and wrap everything. So let's do that. So one thing that GEPRC is doing is that they don't connect the power directly here. They go through the frame first and then they connect it. I think this has to be done before connecting, because otherwise this is not going to go through. That was something that I did wrong on the Cinebot. You can do it here. I mean, it's not a big problem because you can always have the cable outside, like here, and put a zip tie, but it's going to be more elegant and more protected if you have it through this hole. So you want to have the all-in-one controller pointing forward. This is the front of the Cinelog20. You identify it very easily because it's where the camera has to fit, while this is the tail, and here's going to be the TPU part that is holding it. So the little arrow that you have on the flight controller has to point forward, and then just screw the flight controller in this position to start working with it. Since I want my build as nice and clean as possible, I want to replicate the height of where the motors are going to be, so the cable, I can cut the cables to the right length. That's why I'm using two of these spacers that are included in the build. You need one per motor at the end, like for the final product, but I'm going to use two to replicate the thickness of the propeller guard, so I can have the cable and cut it to the right length here, and then I can solder to the flight controller. I'm going to just replicate what I did here on the other four motors. Typical mistake that I do when I'm building this with this flight controller is that I choose this motor that I have here to be in this pad, while actually this pad should be used for this motor, so you don't have cables in front of the port or the USB port. If you see, if I take this motor to this pad here, then I'm gonna have the cables in front or under, or like it's gonna be bothering. It's not gonna be extremely clean. It's not a huge problem because you can always remap the motors and have it the way that it is. But I'm pretty sure that GEPRC built it the way that I have it now, with this motor here, the back left motor, to the first pad on the back, so you don't have it interfering with the USB port. This also means that when I apply the CLI, most probably it's gonna work directly without any problem. Even though, because I did the mistake first to have this motor here, now I have some reverse cables, so most probably I'm gonna have to reverse a motor or something like that, the direction, but that's not a big problem at all. So the only thing left to solder will be the receiver, because the air unit is gonna be connected with this plug. So there's no need for soldering. We have to make sure that the O3 has the right pins here, but I'm pretty sure that that's fine. RX and TX2 are these pads here on the corner, together with power and ground. That power is not that nice to have there, but it won't be an issue. Since I'm not 100% sure where the receiver is going to be, I'm going to just solder the cables and leave them long like this, so that I can play with that later and check where can I set the receiver. The important thing is that I solder these two RX and TX2 because it's what GEPRC normally uses, like in the manual, for example, if you look at it. And that's going to make sure that when I apply the CLI, it also goes and works without any problem. Again, this is not a must. It's something that I'm doing just for convenience, so I can just copy paste the CLI. But I mean, you can put it in any other RX-TX. It doesn't really matter. But now that everything is soldered, I'm going to build this side of the drone. The O3 is going to be connected there to that plug, which is going to make things easier. I'm just going to check that all the connections go to the right place, and that's it. So I checked that the battery and ground are the last two pins here, which is what it goes with the cable that I have from the O3 directly, so that's not going to be a problem. The only thing that I'm thinking about is if I should remove the S-Bus cable from the O3, because it's not going to be used. It's going to the inverted R2, and since I'm using the R2 here, there might be conflicts. So I'm gonna remove that yellow cable. Let's build the top part where the naked camera can be and the camera plates connect to the frame. And these rubbers, you need 3 of them. 1 in each corner, or 1, 2, 3. In the box you have 4, so be careful when you are putting them in. They are a little bit delicate and they can break. I'm using my hex screwdriver M2 to do this job. But again, be very, very gentle and careful, because I think it's very easy that you're gonna break them. And now you want to do the same thing, but on the other plate. I don't know, it could be that it's easier to do before you have the flight control in there. I did it this way, so let's see what happens. When installing it here, the hole that you want for the rubber, it's actually this one, the big one. Okay, these 3 are in both sides, no screws, just pressure. They are very delicate. Be careful when you're putting them in, because I'm pretty sure that many people are gonna break them. You have to, I don't know, either find a good technique or be very, very gentle. You have in the box 2 different 3D printed parts for the cameras. The one for the O3 is this one. It has the whole space where you can rotate the camera. This one I'm guessing that is another camera that you want to have more fixed or that uses a different hole. Then this piece is gonna have these press nuts inserted in here. Okay, both sides, like this. Something important is that this TPU that is holding the camera, it actually, you have to see the press nuts from above. If you see, this is the top of the drone when you connect it. I was connected in the other way before, and then of course it hits with the prop guards and it doesn't fit. So top, you see from the top, you see the press nuts. You have this one kind of like higher up. You see that it goes a little bit higher up, and you screw from the bottom here. Also, when you are putting the motors on the prop guards, the order of the prop guards and these spacers that are in the box, it's important. It's plate, prop guard, spacer, motor. And let's do that for the rest of the motors here. This is a little bit annoying because you have 3 moving parts, and then what I try to do is that I align 2 screws like this, and then I get the motor in and I try to screw the diagonals, and that will hold things in place to screw the other 2 screws. So look at this, there is actually a right position for the prop guards and a wrong position for the prop guards. If you look at what's happening here, the left side, it's not colliding with the camera standoff, you see? While the right side is actually pushing it because this part is hitting, which means that I have to unscrew this and rotate it so I have like the open area pointing towards that camera holder. Otherwise it's not gonna work. So let's change that. So now we have it, both propeller guards with the opening towards the camera, so it doesn't hit that floating plate that we have in front, and it's not gonna bother the filming. Let's build this top plate for the naked GoPro and put it in here. For this one, you want to have all 4 through these holes and these 2 press nuts in this place. Let's see what's the side where you have to put these things. So you want to have the press nut on the bottom of this plate, and the rubber looking on the same direction as the press nuts. These ones are a little bit easier than the small ones, but still you have to pay a little bit of attention to not break them because they are rubber. If you pull them too hard, or if you use like a sharp tool to try to insert them, they can break. But again, these ones, they are big, and you see that I can do it with my fingers. Not too difficult. In the bag, in the package, they don't have extra of these ones, so be careful because if you break them, you don't have more. Now we have to insert this here. What's the right direction? Looks like this is the right direction. So the straight line looking forward. You have also these wave holes looking to the back. I actually decided to connect the camera before putting the top plate because the screws are going to be too much on the way. Or sorry, the plate is going to be too much on the way of the screw. So let me do that first. So I think I said in the video before that it might be a better idea to have the camera installed before installing this system here, the TPU there and the plate that is floating. It works like this too. I mean, I'm doing it, but it's a bit more complicated, and you have to think about all these cabling and all these things. So you take your own decision which part you want to put first, but I think getting it before might be a little bit easier. You can make sure that the grommets are all the way in by looking at how they are here at the bottom, and you see here they went through completely. A little bit difficult to see, but yeah, they are all in. So now we have the top is ready, including the screws for the naked GoPro mount here. We have everything here. Let's put the standoff and then complete the bottom plate. For the standoffs, we have two different sizes, 28mm and 25mm. I'm guessing that you want to use the 28mm for the O3, since the O3 is a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna go with that and see if there is anything wrong, then I change them. You have two different kinds of standoffs. You have these ones that are like specially made with some kind of head in there, and you have the regular aluminum standoff. These ones, the regular ones, are going in the front and in the back like this, and the ones that are specially made, custom made, are going on the side. For the antenna, you have two different TPUs, and you have to use the one that fits your antenna, right? Like for the O3 is the thick one, you have a bigger hole, and I guess that this is for the Vista or something else. So make sure to put them before so you work a little bit easier. The antenna is gonna go on the top like this, right, with the frame in between. That's why you can get the antenna cable inserted here, and then you go down with the UFL connector. For this screw here in the back, we're gonna use this one with the head a little bit bigger, flatter, so you help the TPU not to break. The TPU part holding the antenna has something that clicks, and at the same time when it clicks, it holds everything more in position by pressuring everything. Then we can just attach this screw here. So GEPRC is providing some 3D printed parts, like this one for example. The idea is that you are going to use this to hold the receiver. So something like this. This is going on the side, and then the receiver will fit in here and hold it like this. Of course, with wrapping and cables and everything, right? But this is the idea. It also have like a round ending here. I don't know if it's possible to see in the video, which I'm guessing is to pass some cables, like antenna cables, or maybe the O3 cables. Just let's figure that one out. There is something good that we can do here. If you see, we have this standoff in the front, and we have the O3 cable. We can give it one wrap around it, so in case of crashes we have some kind of stress release for the camera. Just one round, and that's gonna help. I now know that I can put the receiver here on the side with this TPU part that I got in the package, which means that I don't need a very long cable. I'm gonna cut this and solder the receiver so we can finish the build. We have our receiver installed here, solder, and I'm gonna have it in this position with the antenna coming from here. So just gonna put the wrap around. This receiver is a Radio Master receiver, and I don't know why they are very cheap with the plastic wrap that they send. This is not enough. I'm gonna need another one. So here you have 3 UFL connectors, and you have to make sure that you take the right one to go to the receiver. So using the TPU part there, I'm biting the receiver and it's in place. I don't care that it's a little bit loose, since this is Express LRS and I don't need to push any button or anything, so it's fine. But I think if you have a crossfire, you might want to make sure that it bites correctly when you have it in there. Okay, now the last part is to connect the O3 in here. We have to use these silicone gaskets as a separator that I'm just gonna have in this place, like 4 of them. Screws through and then attach the O3. Something that I think is cool here is that GEPRC provided some screws that are similar to the ones that the O3 have, or the same size of the thread, so you can actually screw this plate to the O3 using those new screws. Let's find those screws and do that work. So this plate has something in particular. Do you see the holes here? Those holes have to be towards the outside of the drone, because you have a little bit of a dent in the plate. If you can see here, maybe it's too difficult to see. But anyway, that dent here on the plate has to align with the USB port, so you have better access to it. That's something that I realized late and I have to change in the build. Right, so do you remember that I used some nylon spacers to lift the flight controller a little bit? They are too much, so I need to remove them because the O3 is hitting the screws when I'm trying to close it. So I need to put something smaller there. So in the beginning I decided to use these screws, which I think are 14 or 16 millimeters, I don't remember, together with this standoff, which were giving me some space in the flight controller. That was too much, so I'm gonna change to screws 12 millimeter with this nylon nut to hold the flight controller. Okay, it was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but now that the board is the all-in-one controller is closer to the frame at the bottom, the O3 has no problem fitting here, so we can close it, and there's still even some space there between everything. So this is the right way. The screws are M212 for the flight controller, with only the nylon nut to attach it. Okay, this is starting to look like finished. Now, last part to add the bumpers, and for that we need to put this tape around and just glue them. Okay, what we're gonna do is to get the CLI from GEPRC, so we go to GEPRC.com, we come here to support and downloads. Here we choose the Cinelog20 and the CLI. In the CLI, the one that we are doing right now is Express LRS, so the Crossfire version is exactly the same thing that you need, and I can have this CLI. This is the CLI that I need to have for the drone. So if I connect my drone and then I go to the CLI, I can just copy paste all these, and we should have a functioning drone now. The one thing that I have to check is the motors, because remember that I had the cables a little bit turned in some cases, which means that probably the direction of the motors is not right. So let's check that one once at the CLI finish copy. So we're gonna do some checks. The drone is straight, moving in the right direction, so that's okay. But this looks fine too. Presets, we don't have any preset. The tuning is the tuning from GEPRC. The receiver is Crossfire. I know that my radio is RTA, and I'm going to add my configuration here for the modes, where I normally have pre-arm. That should be AUX1. I normally do like this. This is AUX2. Pre-arm is 5, and I believe the beeper is 3. I have to check that. And then we can change the motor order here quickly. And then we go to the motor direction and we redo this. So 1, it's okay. 2, it's okay. 3 is okay. And 4 is wrong. Okay. Now it's done. The drone is ready. Now the drone is finished. It's very compact, very nice. It's actually a very nice build. It's not difficult, but it has a few gotchas that you have to pay attention to with the frame, like putting something before something or getting the right screws and these kind of things. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching and see you soon.